Hello, I'm Frank Duran,
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
and today on the Warp Shelf podcast, we are spoiled. We are two artists absolutely spoiled with good superhero movies. Deshaun, I don't know how you feel right now, but I feel a little bit spoiled by this year. And this is one movie that absolutely makes me feel that way.
Yeah.
But to our intro, we're two artists reaching into the pile of, what would you say, Deshaun?
Art in general, let's say comics, movies, TV shows, anything that moves you. It could be video games, and we just we fumble through and we just find out what's worth taking with you. Sometimes that's physical media-wise, sometimes that's spiritually if it's not available on physical media. It's just about what resonates.
Yeah, what actually fits on your warp shelf? What fits on ours? What fits on yours? That's what this is all about. And today we're talking about one of my favorite superheroes. I think that's important to say. I think that as a kid, I was Batman first, obviously. Come on, let's be fucking real here. But Spider-Man was always second, and I had a big Spider-Man like encyclopedia book, and literally like at a very young age had like a really crazy knowledge of Spider-Man. And still today have like a crazy, like I've read so much Spider-Man, and I feel like that's important going into this, is that, yes, I'm a Spider-Man fan. Now, going into this, Deshaun, what would you say your favorite Spider-Man movie is? Just to start a fight. What do you want?
So going into this, as in, like, are we including this or before I had seen this?
No, that's what I'm saying. Before this, what would you say your favorite Spider-Man movie was?
Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. I think so too, because I think that there's a lot of great Spider-Man movies. A lot of fun is being had, but something with actual heart was Into the Spider-Verse. Now, Into the Spider-Verse, I think we've talked about it on this show, not a whole episode, of course, but we've talked about it, and in just reference a couple times. So we won't get deep into the Spider-Verse, but I did rewatch it this morning to remember what we came from going into this, because I kind of walked out of Across the Spider-Verse, Deshaun, fucking overwhelmed, and I'm still fucking overwhelmed, man. Like, it's weird to say, but like I'm overwhelmed. I literally sat there the whole movie just being like, holy fuck. You know, like, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's an amazing sequel. Holy shit, we're going to have to talk about what makes this such a great sequel. And it really, I think it improves on the best Spider-Man movie, Into the Spider-Verse, almost in every way. I'll talk about the one way I think it doesn't improve, but I think pretty much every way has improved on Into the Spider-Verse. They have taken a step forward artistically. They have taken a step forward visually. They've taken a step forward musically and just really action sequence, composition, everything. And really, the cast has been stepped up, and it is in a lot of ways really crazy. Same as the first movie. And I don't know, Deshaun, what do you think? What is it like? Okay. What is your thoughts? Because I was really overwhelmed. I was like, I walked out and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I like, really? I was like, that was incredible. But I feel like I didn't take it in fully. I need to go see it again. Like, I need to go see it again and again. Same way I did with Into the Spider-Verse, which, Deshaun, would you say it's one of those movies you've seen way too many fucking times? Because I have
watched it a lot, yeah.
I have watched it a lot. Rewatching it this morning, I was
enough
like,
to own it,
I didn't need to rewatch this morning. I was like, I remember every beat of this movie.
This is literally one of the first like 4K Blu-rays I had ever gotten, and I didn't even have anything to play 4K Blu-rays on yet, but I knew I was going to get a PS5 eventually. Oh yeah, I've forgotten that the 2 discs have like graffiti on them.
Oh, I love that. That's really nice. Yeah.
But anyone who has listened to the show for a bit knows that like I eat up a dark middle chapter. I love me an Empire Strikes Back style, people at their lowest point, cliffhanger or somewhat of a cliffhanger. How are they gonna get out of this? Like, I want my protagonists to fucking suffer.
and really, like, in a true way, a lot of movies they say like, oh, this is the Empire Strikes Back of this series. This is the most true, like, actual, like, Empire Strikes Back situation where it's just like that's the great thing about Empire Strikes Back is that everybody that Luke has trusted up to this point is either captured or betrayed him. And, you know, like, and now he learns that his guys, spoilers for you know. Yeah. Spoilers, I guess. But betrays him, and then he learns that his father's the fucking guy who's been trying to kill him this entire time. It's this gigantic twist. I feel like this is truly, in that way, a real successor to that.
Yeah,
you know, like,
from an emotional standpoint, very much so. From a structural standpoint, I was actually getting vibes of another sequel, which isn't nearly as liked. And I thought I was crazy, and then Slash Film put out an article about the exact same thought.
Are you saying it's Last Jedi?
No, not Last
Okay.
Jedi.
Okay.
I was getting a lot of Matrix Reloaded vibes, with like the metatextual stuff that this movie's trying to cover. Because I know a lot of you have probably forgotten, like, Matrix Reloaded. I know we did like the whole episode about resurrections. But from a metatextual standpoint, like, Matrix Reloaded goes into, like, okay, with the first movie we established that, like, you are the one. We've done the chosen one narrative.
Yes.
Then Reloaded comes in and is like, now let me tell you, like, why that doesn't fucking matter and how you're just one in a long line of would-be chosen ones that have come and gone. And there's a lot of, like, parallels between that and what we do with Across the Spider-Verse, like, especially the thing where it's just like, you weren't even supposed to get bitten from that spider. That spider's from a different universe. You shouldn't have even gotten at that. And because of that, you robbed another Spider-Man of his potential.
But that's not true. It's something Miguel says in this movie. He says he stole the chance, but if you see Into the Spider-Verse, there's like a scene where the spider is about to bite another Miles, like in another universe. So there is, you know, evidence there that was supposed to be Spider-Man of that universe, and it just really just went to another Miles. Mm-hmm. So it's not really like he wasn't meant to be, and I think that's interesting. I think that's an interesting point that, like, guys, we're gonna have to talk spoilers about this movie.
Well,
so,
it's also
guys,
just like going back to like Reloaded. It's also that thing, that entire scene with the architect in Reloaded talks about like how no, this is just one cog in a machine. The story perpetuates itself and just repeats over and over again. And then we talk about like the canon points in this film, which, oh man, do I love a movie that fucking
this, dude.
Literally like puts a lens up to like canon as a thing. It's like, okay. Now, we all love continuity. We like to feel like we're in. As comic book readers, we like to know it's like we've studied up. We put in the work. We know the history. So I get it. There's like that attachment. It's just like, hey, I put all this work in. Don't fuck with my continuity.
Yeah.
But I love a movie like this. And you brought up Last Jedi. Like Last Jedi, it's just like, let me tell you why canon and restrictions to specific continuity
is
and
bullshit.
lore, whether actually established or predetermined up here, what you think it is, can be a fucking problem.
Yeah. I love that about this movie, is that the main villain of this movie is not Spider-Man's. It's not different Spider-Man villains. It's this idea of canon, which is an idea that is destructive to the idea of Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's idea to the idea of superhero movies in general, is that there's like canon events that like have to happen, or like
as opposed to what comics are, which is just a vehicle for any story you want to tell.
Right?
most of which the original creators have long since gone, so it's not like they really have a say in in the direction we take these characters anymore.
I always have to bring up a hater I saw about this movie. Well, like, not really a hater. They love the movie, but they were like, how does the movies do Miles better than the comics ever do? And you're like, bitch, have you read fucking Ultimate Comic? Have you fucking like, bitch,
I've
fucking
seen
read
that make
a
the
comic
rounds too.
Like,
there was like a whole video about that by Godzilla Mendoza, who's a pretty good uploader. Like, I do like his stuff, especially when he talks about Spider-Man. But he is also one of those people who prefers the characterization in Into the Spider-Verse than the actual Bendis run. Which, you want to talk about how Miles has been handled post Bendis run? Yeah, sure.
yeah. Sure.
Because I don't like that either.
Like, yeah.
But, like...
No, I agree, but there's plenty of writers handling Miles and have done great jobs that I think that you should not discredit some of the great stories that are obviously being referenced here. You know, like, even Miles getting a vision from the future about the Spot is fucking from the comics. Like, it's straight up the what is the event comic where he receives the vision of from the evil eye? What is that event comic that it's just like Miles fucking touches an evil eye and gets this terrible vision? I can't remember, but like,
was it like Bendis' run or post Bendis' run?
It's posted. It's like definitely just it's sort of a recent event, like past 5 years. But like, sorry if I'm a terrible comic book nerd, Marvel wise. Sorry, guys. This is my
I did
only
see a
Marvel
great
shirt.
joke the other day because like mainstream like Peter Spider-Man in comics isn't doing so hot right now from what I hear. There's like this whole thing people are super pissed about. And
because
I did
Mary Jane got remarried and it's just like a normal dude. And you're like, guys, isn't that like, isn't that so Peter Parker? Why are you so angry? Like, I feel like maybe that's been happening the entire existence of Spider-Man, is that bad things happen as Peter Parker and the fans are like, what the fuck? Bad things keep happening to Peter Parker. And you're like, that's the story, bro. I don't know what the fuck.
It's also one of those things where it's like, I was gonna say it pulls to something, but that'd be spoilers for something that you haven't read. And does the thing where it's like, oh, Peter was gone for years, and while he was gone, Mary Jane got married and had a kid. And it's like, people are just so fucking angry about it, when I'm just like, guys, this is gonna get retconned in like a month.
Yeah, come on. It's Mary Jane. It's Peter Parker.
Come on. We fall for this every single time. So there were two great comments for like what's going on with Spider-Man right now that I had seen. One is the Dr. Manhattan meme, where it's just like, it is 1990 something. I am reading the worst Spider-Man story ever, or something Clone Saga related. It is 2000 whatever. I am reading the worst comic book Spider-Man story ever. It's fucking one more day. And then it cuts. It is 2023. I am reading the worst Spider-Man story ever.
Oh,
and then the other great comic was comment was, Spider-Man is great at being the one character that will make me stop reading comics for years at a time.
That's so fucked up. You're just like, God damn it! Like, but I mean, I see it because that's the thing. I feel like, just like Batman, there's arcs and writers that you will not agree with the direction they are taking the character at the time. That's okay. That's okay, guys. Just read something else. There's so much of that character. I swear to God, there's something else.
Yeah,
you know?
And I'm sure, especially depending on when you started reading comics, probably plenty of stuff that you can just kind of go back to that you probably haven't even touched.
Right. So, to get back to to not talk about haters, because like, really, I've only seen a bit of hate. It's not really hate. They're just kind of hating on like the original writings, and you're just like, have you read it? It's good. Like, what are you fucking complaining
Bendis'
about?
Ultimate Spider-Man run is my favorite Spider-Man run. From Peter to Miles to the end of that run, like, that's the one I can recommend to people because there's no like 616 baggage. It is a complete story by one writer.
Spider-Man is that it's fun to remix Spider-Man. You
Yeah.
know, like that's what this movie celebrates, and I think that's what's one of those things that's important to realize is that, like, sure, you can have fun with Batman where it's like, oh, it's different Batmans, you know, like that's fun, but like, you know, Batman's kind of very fucking similar in every fucking universe, but like here we show that Spider-Man can be very different in all these very different universes, and I think that that's you know, very fun.
Which goes back to the original point. Like, Peter Parker was always made to be the character that you could project yourself onto.
Yes.
Like, he was like the teenager with the weight of the world on his shoulders. Just like, oh man, I got to save these people from a fucking train that's about to derail. But also, I haven't finished my math homework yet.
Yeah, which is why. Okay, let's get into this movie, because like let's fucking talk about it, guys. Moving forward, we're talking about plot, we're talking about spoilers. Sorry, it's great, it's fantastic. 9 out of 10. Fucking go see it right now in theaters. You're not gonna fucking want to miss it. Moving on to the story. Is that we start off this movie with a great sequence where we introduce the villain and. Well, first off, we start with Spider-Gwen. I love that. We're just like, hey, one of the biggest main characters of the last movie gets her start here, and I love
in the bisexual lighting universe.
Yeah, and the transsexual lighting universe. You're like, what is going on over here? I really love this reimagining of that sequence with Peter Parker, because there as the Lizard, because in the original movie they kind of do like a quick thing where you get to see him as the Lizard for like a second and then he's dead, and he looks like,
and it also took
Peter Parker too, like,
it
instead
looks like
of
Peter
this
B.
young
Parker,
one,
like he's fucking 40 years old, and it's really distracting.
Yeah, and you're like, wait, was Gwen into this weird
old man?
Like, you were like, it was like, what, and then like, so I'm glad they.
Just one of those things where like, we have the model for a Peter Parker, just use it.
They just use it. And I really like that they, you know, like, they reimagined this and redid it, and we kind of get this great beginning of Gwen, you know, like, I really love this, like, kind of multiversal, just like awesome opening of her fighting this vulture that's from like it's like I think he's supposed to be 1610 vulture sort of, but like he's also made of paper.
It's definitely like
it's
Renaissance.
It's very strange.
It's very like Renaissance, like Da Vinci.
Yes,
because it's like sketch style, and you can like see like written numbers and code on like dimensions and stuff like that.
And you're like, oh,
so he's like a living blueprint.
And we're kind of introduced to Miguel O'Hara and is it Jess?
Yeah, it's supposed to be Jessica Drew. What they've done here is they've basically taken like Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, like Madam Hydra, Jessica Drew, technically not related to Spider-Man. Comics are weird. Spider-Woman. And they sort of merged her with the first time a woman had ever put on the Spider-Man suit, which is like this minor character who was like a librarian, and she was a black woman, and she had put on the suit. So that's like old comic book stuff. And they basically just made a composite out of that.
I like it. I'm for it, because this Jess Drew is awesome. I think this is great. She's so badass with the bike.
Always voiced by Issa Rae, who I'm a big fan of.
Huge fan. And then we get Miguel O'Hara, which is Oscar Isaac, playing another Marvel superhero villain /
Marvel character.
Just Marvel character in general. Which is fucking nuts, by the way. Who the fuck is working at Marvel that they can't hire somebody else? like I fucking love Oscar Isaac. I fucking love him. He does a great job here, but like, are you shitting me? Like, are you like he's so many Marvel characters and so many Disney characters. You're like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on?
Well, as far as the Marvel side is concerned, he's only done 3. I mean, Haley Steinfeld has 2 with Spider-Gwen and Hawkeye.
Yeah, right. You're just like, what? I think it's kind of cool that they use their players now, but at the same time, you're like, I think we've gone a little far, guys. But I know it's all different companies.
Laughs and
you know,
Chris
like,
Evans.
Yeah, right. Laughs and Chris Evans, right. I know everyone was joking this morning on my chat for Tears of the Kingdom. They were like, yo, they announced that they're gonna try to make a Breath of the Wild movie, and they're like, get ready for Chris Evans as Link. And I was like, dude, don't even say it, because he's already Spider-Man at the beginning of Into the Spider-Verse. So you're just it's not even.
That's Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. Sorry, yo, I'd go for Pine too. I would always go for Pine to be anybody, but that's just my preference.
Chris Pine would have made a good Hal Jordan if they hadn't already cast him as Steve Trevor.
Right? Yeah, it's true. So, I think, of course, Oscar Isaac is fantastic in this role. Miguel O'Hara finally being put to screen makes my spider boner so fucking hard, Deshaun. I can't fucking describe.
As opposed to maybe a bonus costume in the Neversoft Spider-Man game.
Right.
Or he is one of the characters in Shattered Dimensions. That is one of the better Spider-Man games. Mm-hmm. And other than the post-credit scene in the first movie, it's just to actually see Miguel O'Hara
acknowledging he's a vampire and sort
of thing is a joke, but he does have he literally does have venomous fangs that he uses to paralyze people.
Yeah, and all the things that are actually comic accurate, they just acknowledge and just go with. Even the fucking cape at moments, and I'm just like, whoo! I was just like, oh man. Another thing they said though, and Into Spider-Verse, Spider-Man doesn't wear capes, and Miguel specifically wears a cape several scenes in this. Mm-hmm. My theory, and guys, we've already said no spoilers, is that Miguel is projecting on Miles because he's insecure about being Spider-Man 2. There's all these other, I think that it's sort of a projection on Miles.
Especially since he's also not a Peter like Miles is.
Right?
When most of these are Peters.
I think that's kind of important here, is that he's specifically angry and chasing him down, thinking that he's creating all these instances, but really you're like, Miguel, did you start these instances that you went over to somebody else's fucking universe and fucked it up?
You might have been the first domino.
Yeah, dude. I feel like you're like, damn. And when you watch Into the Spider-Verse, you're like, no one's blaming Miguel. You're not blaming Kingpin, the fucking famously bad dude in every fucking timeline. There's a Kingpin even in your universe. Come on, let's get fucking real here. You're
fucking Miles didn't build the collider.
Damn, it's not his fault. Jesus.
But there's also an interesting, you can almost interpret it as a gap between the character shift, because when you look at the way Miguel's presented in the post-credit scene for Into the Spider-Verse,
yes,
he's, a lot more wisecracking, a lot sillier, maybe at just the very start of this journey before there's even a huge group of other spider people. So this, you could interpret that as maybe this is before everything went down and before he became so jaded.
Yes, and I think it's definitely one of those situations where he's becoming jaded about it, and it's so interesting, dude. I think Miguel's kind of an interesting villain here.
I'm also glad that they redesigned him for Across the Spider-Verse. In the post-credit scene and Into the Spider-Verse, it was just very traditional. That's Miguel O'Hara. I like that they made him very top-heavy, bulky, almost bestial. Right. They gave him almost the Batman fins on the arms that are super long, and they slightly redesigned the emblem, so it's it's a skull, but it's a little more subtle.
Yes, I really like the redesigns on everybody. I think that if you compare the designs to everything, it's incredible.
What a fucking glow up for Spider-Man India. Spider-Man India had one of the laziest designs ever. It was just the normal ass Peter Parker costume with slightly different pants and shoes. It was so lame.
How do you say his name in this so I don't mess it up? It's Peter Petra. It's Paviter. I can't say it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Paviter Prabhakar, I think.
Yes.
Paviter Prabhakar, maybe.
I think it's funny because people complain. I brought up Last Jedi earlier. People complain about the like casino sequence in Last Jedi without realizing that it's like a comment on how evil is banal and it looks fun and entertaining, and all this evil is so benign. Sorry, and like it's something that they're not like catching. A lot of people don't catch on to. We have this whole visit to the
Mumbai. It's like Mumbai and Manhattan.
Yes, which I really loved. But it feels very Last Jedi, where it's just like, no, we're taking this to another universe. We're going to do a whole adventure in another another place. And I think that people will, of course, react differently to this, because I feel like this doesn't feel as out of nowhere as the casino sequence may feel like, and it feels like it moves.
Yeah,
like in a lot of ways.
Sequence isn't necessarily the intent, but the tone.
Yes.
The problem is like, oh, I get that you want to show like, oh, there are people over here that like profit from the war and get rich off of it, whether it's like the prequels, the original trilogy, or the sequels. There's always someone benefiting from wartime, and that's a very realistic thing. But also, we don't have time to free these fucking horses. Don't we have like a weird ticking clock? Like, we got rebels up here that are gonna die, and we're all like, oh, but the horses.
But the horses, it's true. And this is like, it's like another Peter and them trying to help him. And I dig that.
And I'm also glad that we just kind of went for it with like all the different versions of Spider-Man that were in the comics when we had the Spider-Verse storyline, and how it's not always a spider. Like, they make the joke that like Spider-Man of India got his powers through magic, and they joke about like Spider-Punk being like, I got mine from like fucking nuclear waste.
Yeah, you're like, holy shit. I do love that shit. So before we get into that, we have the whole Gwen opening sequence. Then we have this great classic kind of Peter situation where it's Miles trying to get to like a school meeting. Well, a new villain is being introduced, and he's trying to like play him off, but of course it turns into a much bigger problem 2 or 3 comics later. Like that's how so many Spider-Man comics start, and it felt like a warm blanket had been placed over me. They did this whole sequence, and I was like, yes, I am now in the Spider-Man comic, and like that's what I feel is what's so special about this movie, is that as much as it is its own thing and is pushing the boundaries of animation and everything like that, I think that its sensibilities about comic books and understanding what it's like to read a comic book and what it feels like to read a comic book, and then translating that on screen, is what makes this movie even more special than Into Spider-Verse.
And more importantly, from a structural and narrative standpoint, not just the visual elements. Like, hey, look, speech bubbles and and description boxes and, onomatopoeias.
Right?
It understands it on a deeper level than beyond just the aesthetics.
I think that's what makes this movie so mind-blowing to me, is that I felt like I feel like this is something you'd say about some movies, but like I don't know if it really felt like it before. You could say like, oh, I felt like I was reading the comic. This felt like this could have been a graphic novel that I had picked up and read, and you probably could, with just the frames of this movie, is making like a graphic novel version of this. What a fantastic feeling with them moving through the panels and like dissolving through the panels at points right at the beginning with the Gwen story, and then going right into the Miles story, where it's just like it absolutely feels like he's moving through panels at points, and it's this beautiful like marriage of animated film, 3D animation, because that's what I think is the real step in animation here, is we take a lot of the 2D of what was the last movie and we make it even more 3D with some impressive movements. I don't know if anybody else was as impressed with the Gwen sequence in the subway. The way the camera like moves around her at some of those moments, you're like, holy shit, You know, like that is incredible. It's like a step forward. It's one of those things that you're like, holy fuck, that looked incredible. And I think that I think the 3D parts of it really step it up, but it's also the visual style that really steps up here, with some of the backgrounds almost completely dissolving to just color at moments, which they were playing with in the original movie. You know, like they play with it, you know, like where Peter and Miles have a spider sense moment, and it goes from like the Prowler colors over Miles to the Spider-Man colors. But here you have these great moments where, you know, Gwen is talking to her dad and they have both of their colors behind them, you know, like, and like the colors that made up Gwen are now like bright and taking up the entirety of the background, which was just incredible. I thought was just awesome. I thought that every time they did that, I was like, that ain't overused. That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, and the fact that we bring in so many of these different spider people from an aesthetic standpoint, like Spider-Punk alone, how like his colors shift and he has like this rough, like sketchy art style. Sometimes he's in color, sometimes he's like in grayscale, and you never sit to think this doesn't really fit with everything else. You're just like, no, this all feels cohesive. I'm not even really questioning it.
Yes, right. That's the thing, is they're slamming. Like, not only are they pushing the what they can do with 3D, you know, like what they're possible with these models in 3D and the camera movements. I think they're also pushing a mixing of styles that feels way more cohesive than, say, the Chip and Dale movie, which felt like a fucking fever dream of styles being slapped together.
And also like a lack of commitment, like the whole, like just what one of them being like, oh, we'll just make them a CG model, but then try to make them look 2D, and it just doesn't work.
Right. I think that's what's great about this movie, is they're able to blend those 2D characters in with the 3D, and it looks gorgeous the entire time. And you're like, how they said today that the Spider-Verse lobby, Spider Society sequence where they're like, welcome to Spider Society, that took 4 years to animate. Fucking crazy, my man. And like that's not even like touching some of the more beautiful sequences in the movie, but that was incredible.
And then if it wasn't enough of a flex to like blend all these different styles together, then we also start dropping live action shit in here.
Right? You're just like, what? Like, you're just like, oh, holy shit. Like they're just like, let's quickly show Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Toby real quick. We'll just show them real quick. It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And then they show the Venom lady. Spot comes out and visits the Venom lady, because of course it's a Sony movie, so they're like, our biggest thing is we have the lady from Venom, and you're like, that's what shows why these Venom movies suck.
Oh my god!
Guys.
Every
like,
time we
you visited the fucking like bodega lady. You didn't visit like Venom or like Carnage or anything cool. Like
every time I feel it, because I never feel like it's intentional. I feel like it's always mandated by Sony. Like, hey,
yeah, right.
Acknowledge the Venom movies, and it's so fucking embarrassing.
It's absolutely embarrassing. Like, it was a funny sequence, absolutely. I do want to talk about that. Is that I was talking about how great and like Spider-Man like it feels with that opening Miles sequence. Spot, Jason Schwartzman as Spot. Oh my god. Like, I mean, he's always great. He's always great as voice acting roles. But he's fantastic in this. Like, he's absolutely great as the Spot. I think he brings... Jason Schwartzman's able to bring an anger that I think is important to a Spider-Man villain, and I think that he's great here. I will say that's one thing I do sort of miss for this movie.
What?
Is that I love that we fight Spot and we fight all the Spider-Men, but I kind of loved all the weird interpretations of Spider-Man villains we got from the last movie, and all we got here was one sequence where they're walking through and they're all locked up, and like that was fun. I mean, I got to see I already said it. Spoilers, guys. I got to see Childish Gambino. I in the Prowler suit. Like, I'm happy, you know. Like, and they brought him up twice. Like, I was like really happy about that.
So I guess that's supposed to imply that that's Prowler that we met in Homecoming. Who I guess finally became the Prowler off screen because he was like trying to buy like the weapons in that movie. But if from a metatextual standpoint, like it definitely got my brain going, just like, oh my god, Donald Glover on Community was the inspiration for Miles.
Well,
then we finally got Donald Glover in Homecoming, and then we finally got him into one of these movies, which is a Miles specific movie.
Even worse, Into the Spider-Verse shows the clip from Community where he's wearing the Spider-Man shirt that inspired Bendis to create Miles Morales. And you're like, what? And so they do that in Into the Spider-Verse, and then for them to put him in to the next movie, you're like,
and also,
you know, like,
and also the Insomniac Spider-Man, Yuri Lowenthal Spider-Man is in this, but Genki is playing the Insomniac game in Miles's dorm. So I'm like,
yeah, with unseen footage that hasn't been released yet, by the way. Like, they like specifically didn't release the footage that they put in the movie that Genki's playing, and I thought that was kind of funny. Like, I'm like, all right, Sony, I'll give you props for that, being like, we're gonna drop a gameplay trailer.
Yeah, it's the
in
same,
what
like,
the
it's
next
the same, like,
Spider-Man movie, bitch.
It's the same, like, my head's gonna hurt if I think too much about it, that like the Mario movie did, where it's just like, okay, there's a Donkey Kong machine in the Punch-Out Pizzeria, but Donkey Kong exists over here, but also Mario has an R-Wing on top of his TV. But if we do a Star Fox movie, I'm thinking about it.
Not fucking thinking about it. If they don't do a Star Fox movie, I'm fucking rioting, by the way. Like, I mean, yes, give me my Breath of the Wild movie. I'm already so hyped about the cutscenes that were in Tears of the Kingdom. That's my animated movie. I don't need a fucking DreamWorks movie. I have that. So I don't fucking need an animated movie, but you know, give it to me. I'm fine with it. It feels like a DreamWorks movie. You know, like, well, they'll love it. It'll be terribly casted, but I'm for it. Besides the point. I kind of love the dread of everyone being hesitant to bring Miles in. I think that's also kind of important for this movie. Like, you have this kind of dread of, like, you kind of know you can't bring Miles into Spider Society, and you're like, oh, why? You know, like, you're like, what for? You know, like, and it's just like, oh, everyone's kind of been like, oh no, he has to go through the canon events, and you're like,
yeah. Also, this kind of
fucked up.
This kind of like awakened, I wouldn't say awakened, but this made me realize just how, I never really thought about how pivotal a moment the death of Captain Stacy is until now.
No,
like,
I've always loved
obviously
it.
For Peter specifically, especially like original continuity 616. But then thinking about it, it's just like, oh yeah, this is kind of a recurring thing, isn't it?
It always is. It always is. I'm a big Gwen Stacy, proprietor. I mean, of course, Mary Jane all the way. All the way. But like growing up, I was like, yeah, Gwen Stacy, Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy, Betty.
And to be fair, that is mostly like the way we started to write Gwen Stacy post like her original incarnation, which gave her a lot more personality.
Speaking of Gwen, by the way, I was dying. Dallas Howard was posting on her Instagram. She was like, I saw the movie with my dad and it was fucking incredible. I fucking loved Across the Spider-Verse. And then she's like posting about her time of being Gwen, and I was like, I think only you are looking on that Gwen time very fondly. I don't think anybody else is like, yes, Bryce Dallas Howard, pivotal Gwen Stacy.
It wasn't necessarily like a bad choice for Gwen or even like a bad portrayal of Gwen, but like that movie already has enough shit to deal with that. Why did we even bother touching on Gwen?
You're just like, too far. Too many things.
I did see a Facebook post like just before I came on, where it's just like favorite Gwen of the three, and you do like the Facebook reacts to vote for it. It was like Bryce Dallas Howard, Emma Stone, and Haley Steinfeld for Spider-Verse, and Emma Stone was getting the most votes.
Well, people love Emma Stone, and I don't blame them. But like, I think that Haley Steinfeld should be fucking commended for her role in this fucking movie. She does such a great job here. I think that first off, she starts the movie, so she's the main character. Like she is, like there's Miles and her. Like they are the main characters here, and I love their romance. I love it. Feels so genuine. Genuine. Sorry, not the rapper Genuine. Genuine. And it feels so real, and I really love that about it. Like that it felt like, but it was like sort of doomed the whole time that like it was gonna go bad because she has to bring him to Spider Society, and they're like, and we're just gonna lock him up.
And even the acknowledgement of like, there are a lot of Gwen Stacy's out there too, and they tend to end up with Spider-Man, and it doesn't usually go well.
Dude, I saw the worst like YouTube short this morning. They were like, they're playing that clip. They were like, usually Gwen Stacy ends up falling for Spider-Man, and then they immediately play the clip of Emma Stone, Spider-Man snapping her neck on the ground, and I was like, oh! Like, I was just like, I thought it was gonna be a cute video being like, oh yeah, it's such a nice little moment. Then I snap neck. I was like, Jesus Christ! But yeah, I thought it was funny they said that. I was like, I was like, Jesus Christ. I think she does such a great job. I think the whole cast is fantastic, by the way. I think we should talk about the cast a little. I think that Shamik Moore as an older Miles Morales is fantastic. Haley Steinfeld as Gwen Stacy, she's great. She's so good in this role. It's one of those things that I'm like, she shows so much range in doing this role, because it's like, first off, I do listen to a little bit of Haley Steinfeld music, so it's like I do like her music, and I think that it's so wild to me how her voice can change from her music singing voice to like this to like acting in Bumblebee. Like it's kind of like completely different. And
even before that, awesome. She was in the Coen Brothers remake of True Grit. Like,
right?
Since she was young, she's been like a fucking killer.
And then, of course, you have one of my absolute favorite actors recently, Brian Tree Henry. He is fantastic, by the way. Tyree. He is fantastic. He's the only reason me and Mary watched that Class of '91 on Hulu with the FBI show. I was like, it's got Brian Tree Henry in it. I'll watch it. I'm like, he's good in everything, so I'll watch it. And of course, he's the best part of that show. It's not a very good show, but he's great in it. And then I think that Luna Lauren Velez as Rhea Morales had me crying like a baby. I'm not gonna cry this episode, guys, like Guardians of the Galaxy here, but like I was crying like a baby during her like take care of my little boy speech. Deshaun, I don't know about you, but I was a fucking mess. And maybe that's why I was overwhelmed by the end, because she made me cry, and then we went to the Spider Society, and I was just like, the fuck? It's all incredible. And I'm like, already fucked up from crying, and I'm just like, God damn it, dude. Like, she did such a great job. Jake Johnson being back is fantastic. I was making fun of Oscar Isaac, but he's absolutely Miguel O'Hara. Like, this is the reason why he gets hired for all these Marvel roles. You're like, he was. It's like the Apocalypse costume is terrible, but he's a fantastic Apocalypse, but he's, that costume is terrible. Of course, he was great as Moon Knight.
No, that was sort of a no-win scenario, because Apocalypse's even comic book design is fucking stupid.
The Jason Schwartzman's great. Is it Issa Rae? Is that how you say it?
Issa Rae.
Issa Rae is great as Jessica Drew.
Watch Insecure. It's a great show.
I do want to. Now, Daniel Kaluuya, we already talked about how much we love him in our Nope review. He absolutely steals the show. Not Spider-Punk, Hobie Brown. And by the way, we don't call him Spider-Punk because he doesn't like to be called Spider-Punk in the comics, and even here, he fought to be called Spider-Man. And I think that's always great. Everyone's always like Spider-Punk, and it's kind of like...
Well, the same thing like with Spider-Gwen. That's not actually her name. It's just Spider-Woman.
Yeah, you're
or like Ghost Spider now. I don't know if that's stuck.
No, I don't think it's stuck. I think it was just like, we came up with something else, and you're like, no, you didn't. But him as Hobie Brown here is absolutely fantastic, and I kind of love that the story itself hypes him up, like they're like, oh, you haven't met Hobby yet,
You haven't met
like like I kind of really love that. And then he's like cool as hell, and you're like, I love it. That's fucking awesome. And then Karine Soni as Puppeteer, but I'm gonna mispronounce it again. He's great. I thought he was fantastic in the role. There's so many. I think having a lot of Uncle Aaron back with I'm gonna mispronounce
Ali.
his. Thank you. I'm sorry. So many names today that I'm not gonna get. Fantastic. Andy Samberg as Ben Riley was
Riley was really funny.
It was actually a fantastic
I actually thought it was Will Arnett at first because he's kind of going for a similar thing. I'm like, wait, no, it's not Will Arnett.
I thought he was so good in this role because it's like that's what Ben Riley's always kind of been a joke, so I loved kind of like dunking on him a little bit.
I love the salt for that. Have you seen that making the rounds? Just like, as a huge Ben Riley fan, I felt like the portrayal of him in Across the Spider-Verse was kind of disrespectful, and he just kind of became an avatar for like the 90s being dumb. It's just like, well, it's because they were.
Yeah, that's because he is. He's like red and blue Superman. He is. Like
I dig Ben Riley too, but the Clone Saga is garbage. Like,
yeah, his costume.
Sorry,
peak.
Yeah,
Absolute,
love that costume.
And them sticking to it here, beautiful.
And I also love that aesthetically he looks just like Peter B. Parker, but blonde.
Right? Yeah, fucking love that. So he's Peter A. Parker. I love Jack Quaid as another Peter Parker here. I thought he sticks out. You're like, hell yeah. I thought it was so funny that Rachel Dratch's character here as like the school counselor looked exactly like her. Like, a lot of the other characters do not look like their actors.
No.
Why did her model look so much like her? I was like, you just cast her in the role. You didn't even fucking like it obviously couldn't be anybody else is what made me laugh about that. I was like, they literally
not have time to come into the booth? Did you just like film that with a camera and you just rotoscoped around it?
Right? Like I was like that just looks like her. I was like, what did they, I was like that would be my Twitter like avatar forever, would be that animated version of me if they did like such a perfect job of encapsulating like an animated version of me like that. I'd
going
be like,
back
you're
to like
mine
the Ben
forever.
Riley thing, like, and Into the Spider-Verse did a really good job of this too, of just like acknowledging that like, yeah, this is comic books and sometimes we do really stupid things, so let's just move on and not just fucking have it ruin our day. Like they made fun of the Spider-Man 3 stuff with like the dancing and stuff in the first movie. Here, everyone fucking hates the spider car, and they made it instead of just making it a spider car, they made it its own living conscious being from another universe, which was hilarious.
I love that. You're like, holy shit. I was like incredible. There's so many incredible Spider-Man in this.
But in
like,
addition to like other cameos and stuff, like I had mentioned earlier, we do have Insomniac. The Insomniac game, Peter show up in this, voiced by Yuri Lowenthal. But the one that like really, really warmed my heart was Spectacular Spider-Man from the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon.
Lines. I was like, holy shit!
And he was actually voiced by Josh Keaton again. Like that made me very happy. And he actually said it wasn't even like a throwaway joke like it was for the Insomniac Peter. Like he had like an important line that was like a heart-to-heart moment with Miles to try and help him. And you're like, holy shit.
You're like, holy shit, he's the best of us. I was like, holy shit. I also really loved, I don't know if you've read the New York Times article that's been making the rounds. Because, first off, this is the directors of the Lego movie. And then we come to this one moment where it's Lego Spider-Man, and it's not animated in the Lego movie style. No. And you're kind of like, huh? For a second? And then you read this New York Times article where this 14-year-old boy, which I've seen this before, I saw it making the rounds, he animated the Across the Spider-Verse trailer, shot for shot with Legos, and it made it to Phil Lord and Chris Miller's desk, and they were like, this is incredible. This is the best. This is mind-blowing, even to like us professional animators. This is incredible animation, and they find out it's a 14-year-old. And they bring him in, and he animated all those Lego sequences. I was fucking shitting myself. I was like, that's the fucking, like, childhood dream. You fucking animated a Lego so good that the Lego movie guys were like, fuck! Damn, that's a good Lego animation, you know? Like, are you shitting me? I thought, you know, you watch the Lego movies and you're like, that's some incredible animation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch this and you're like, that kid's damn good. You know, like, you're like, that's what I felt like. I was like, this looks completely different. Why does it look so different but so good?
Mm-hmm.
And then to learn that it was a 14-year-old that did it, you're like, what the fuck?
That's the difference between, like, because, like, the Lego movie is really CG trying to look like stop motion versus the sequence here, which is actually stop motion. And you can see, you can just see, like, the blood, sweat, and tears and fucking time it took.
Yes. And I think that that's what's important about this movie and what makes it feel special is I feel like you could see they highlighted artists in this movie, and that led to great sequences, great scenes, great shot compositions. It's just like beautiful moment after beautiful moment constantly. And I think that that's what I think if everyone was like, wow, Into the Spider-Verse fucking took us away from the Pixar style and opened up animation for big budget movies, because that's what DreamWorks even does. You know, they're still doing like Pixar style most of the time. It's like this does something even crazier, than that, like animation wise. And I think that's, I think important to realize here is that this is kind of this crazy step in animation in a lot of ways. And I'm like, damn.
I will say, and I imagine you'll probably disagree with me, I don't like Miles' costume as much.
No? I like the red stripes.
Like, the red stripes make me think way too much like a tracksuit, and I also love the recurring joke in the movie that is like, what are you, bleeding from your armpits?
Okay, so if we're talking
I like
about
the way it connects, like, it's the stripe from the arm that becomes like a full red on the palm. Like, I like that detail. But I don't know. I just miss the one. I knew the like graffiti costume from the end of the first movie wasn't going to stick. But I wanted to just look more like the comic book costume, which is already pretty perfect.
Yeah.
And it also feels weird that there's like no sense of webbing on it, really. Or if it's there, it's like really, really subtle.
So I got my Miles mask right here. I'm not going to throw it on because I'll fuck up my hair. But, like, you could see, webbing. Like, that's not exactly present in the model here. It's not. It's kind of funny. You're like, oh, it's not exactly the same. It's
like,
all black.
I see that, like, red, like, border line, and all I can think of is, like, a tracksuit.
So if we're talking about things that we didn't like about this movie, which is very little. Very little. Very little. I will say, I think I like the soundtrack for the movie in the first one more. Because the songs for this movie are specifically made by Metro Boomin for this movie. And they reference Spider-Man in almost every one of the songs on the soundtrack, which makes this movie almost feel like a musical at times. Like that they're singing about Spider-Man in the fucking Spider-Man movie, like
it gets to be like too on the nose.
Yeah, a little too on the nose. And I think that's my one
as opposed to like
complaint, because I think it's a great soundtrack, and of course the theme for Miguel and Gwen, oh, so fucking good. Those themes are fan-fucking-tastic. But is it weird that they say that Lil Wayne's being like Apita Paca, you're just kind of like, wait, hold on,
as
too much
opposed to
on
like
the nose.
grabbing a group of songs in the first movie that one, a kid Miles' age would definitely be listening to, but also hand in hand can be resonant for a particular moment.
Exactly.
When you make it specifically, when it's birthed specifically for a movie, then you sort of lose that.
And it feels more like a musical in a weird way, like, and in some ways it is, because like there is musical sequences done to music, like plenty of like straight up almost musical like scenes, like, so it's one of those things where you're like, it is a choice, like it's a choice. I just don't know if I like it more than what they chose for the first movie to fit. But I gotta say that, I mean, there's some great tracks on here. I have been nonstop listening to Mona Lisa by Dominic Fike. I think that's the best one on the soundtrack. It's when he's webbing around with Gwen through the city, and I think that song's fucking incredible. I've been listening to it too much. And of course, the title track that they use for this movie a lot is Annihilate, which uses the Miguel sound in the song. And I think it's very good. I just don't know if it's better than Sunflower. You know, like, it does have Swan Lee in it, which I think is good to bring back, because I think Swan Lee even sounds like he's Miles Morales singing. You know, like, that sounds really weird to say, but like, I think that you know, like, because he's his own artist, but like, when he sings, for some reason, because he was singing it in the first movie, you know, like he was singing the Sunflower. It almost sounds like
Shameik Moore.
Yeah, it almost sounds like him, and even here it sounds like him, and I think that's what I think. Swan Lee's almost like super important to these soundtracks, and they better have him on the next one, because I think he sounds like Miles, you know, like, and I think that's important. But is Annihilate better than Sunflower? I don't think so. I think that it's good. It's a good song. It's a great song. I think Metro Boomin does a good job here of keeping it fresh and cool, but there's a lot of songs with Spider-Man stuff in it, and it's weird, you know, like, it's in a strange way. That's my only complaint, really, is like, because I was like, these songs are good, but it's strange that we're singing about Spider-Man in the Spider-Man movie, you know, like, it's like, you're like, what the fuck is with the like, but that would be my really, like, I don't know how many other complaints I have, you know, like, I feel like a lot of people had great screen time. I love the twist ending because it feels so abrupt. That's how they got you. That's how they know they got you, is that you come to the end and you're like, what the fuck? How could that be the ending? I need more, you know, like, and really, I there's been those memes, I think I sent it to you, where you're like, when Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse isn't a 5-hour cut of 2 movies slapped together, and you're like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah.
And it's like, and it's really, it's true. The movie ends and you're like, oh, god damn,
I love that.
I want more, but like, what do you expect?
That everyone fucking forgot that this was a 2-parter, just like they did with Infinity War. The amount of comments I've seen is just like, I didn't expect the cliffhanger. What the fuck? Just like, literally, when it was announced, it said Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, and then they later just renamed it to give it its own thing. Infinity War did the exact same thing, and everyone forgot by the time it came out.
I love the twist at the end that he gets sent to the wrong universe. I think that's fucking awesome. I think that I mean, first off, him escaping from all the spiders is such an epic sequence. So good, so crazy. I need to go see the movie again just for that sequence.
Yeah, and just to pick out.
If they put it on YouTube, I think it would get 1 billion views, because I would sit there and just watch it again and again, because I would be like, oh shit, there's that guy, there's that, you know, like, there's that Spider-Man, there's that Spider, and you know, like, it felt like that watching it, and that's why I felt like I missed it. Also, it didn't help that I saw it in CRX, which is like a bigger, wider, louder theater, and I feel like sometimes that can be kind of overwhelming. You're just sitting there like, fuck! You're like, oh, this movie's great, but you're just kind of like, because the screen's so damn big that you're just kind of like looking everywhere, and especially with those Spider-Man sequences, you're like, the Spider Society sequences, you're like, holy fuck, there's so much going on. Like, you're like, holy shit. Like, so I definitely need to see it again, and I want to see it again in theaters. I absolutely do. It's like, holy shit. I don't know. I think that's my thing, is that this is so fantastic. It's one of those things that Guardians of the Galaxy is one of the best Marvel movies. I said that last time. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. One of the best, because it made me feel something. This made me feel something, and also was just a fantastic Spider-Man movie. You know, like, that's something that, and it's got to be, to me, the best. I think that Into the Spider-Verse is great, but it feels small now. It feels small. Like, I watched it this morning, and I was sitting there, Deshaun, going, oh my God, it feels small. It feels so like, oh shit, they slipped through the portal. Okay. You know, like, and now they got to send them back. And then they're like, nope. In the next one, they're like, slap, 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 slap.
Well, that's exactly what I wish, like, sequels to movies of this ilk would do. I feel like so often we get first movies like this that feel like they open up a whole new world for you, and then you get to the sequel and they just kind of rinse and repeat what we've already seen.
Yes.
You've seen stuff like the first Men in Black film or the first Kingsman film where you're just like, okay, the origin was done really well. Now we fucking open up the floodgates. Now the possibilities are endless. So what do? We just make a movie that's just an endless series of callbacks to the first one again.
I think that's one of the reasons why this is a great sequel. We haven't talked about that. I said that at the beginning. Why this is a great sequel. First off, a great sequel always goes bigger and better, and this does. Second, is exactly what Deshaun's saying. They're taking the original idea and just like sprinting, and even more so than like Into the Spider-Verse wasn't even as big as the original event in the comics. You know, like they weren't traversing to Spider-Verses. You know, they weren't gathering all these Spider-Men together. This feels like that comic. You know, like this feels more like it. And we don't even have the Spider Slayers. We're not even doing Spider Slayers, which to me, I'm totally cool with. Like, you know, like the vampires killing spiders. Like
the highlight of
that was not the highlight
event.
Exactly. I'm totally cool with them just taking that out of the equation.
I also love that the threat is more internal.
Yes. It's like, and it's one of those things that like they want. It's like a. It's a moral dilemma, you know, like, which I kind of dig, is that they're like, yo, as Spider-Man, we got to save everybody, but we also need to respect these canon events because we think if we don't, it causes rips in the multiverse. When in reality, is it Spot causing all these rips in the universe? You know, like, is it really skipping like events that's causing these, you know, like structural breakdowns? Like, I don't know, you know, like, and I think that's what's fun about this, you know, like, you don't really know.
And two things that I love that I feel like we don't do enough often is like a subplot is I love a nothing villain that turns into something.
Yes.
Like just kind of a joke that actually becomes a threat. Like it reminds me of like Kefka from FF6. Just like, oh, the stupid fucking clown that we keep running into. Oh, he literally won and ended the world. And now we have to pick up the pieces. Or the idea of like a hero and a villain on sort of a parallel journey, which My Hero Academia does really well. Where you have like Deku over here and Shigaraki over here. And literally like one's battling to become world's greatest hero. The other one's on the opposite side becoming like greatest villain. You get to see both halves.
Right. I like it. And I agree with you, is that I love kind of that, like, seeing both grow. And I think that's what's so special about Spot here, is that he's a fun thing to animate, of course. I think he's it makes for great sequences.
I also love that he was the scientist that got hit with the bagel in the first movie. That was so funny. I love that they tied it back to that.
It's so funny. You're like, oh shit. So he's already pissed at Spider-Man, and then the fucking the reactor blows up and he gets like turned into this, and you're like, yeah, that's Spider-Man villain equation, you know, like are insulted by Spider-Man by hitting him with a bagel.
Even him being super apologetic when he's trying to rob the store. It's like, look, I can't exactly get a normal job with the way I am now, so can we just just make this easier? Because so many Spider-Man villains are just fucking thieves.
I think that's important here, is that we talked about this in Guardians of the Galaxy, is that like we haven't had villains just being evil, you know, and thank God he's, you know, the High Evolutionary was just fucking evil. Mm-hmm. Here we have no real villains, because even in the beginning with Miguel taking in Gwen, you could tell Miguel's a good guy, you know, like Miguel's trying to do right. He is a Spider-Man, you know, like he's not always like, I mean, when it comes to Miles and Hobby, he's like, shut the fuck up, I fucking hate you guys. But like, but if you know, it's like if it's seems like for everybody else he's trying to do right, you know, and he's trying to save the universe. And it's like same for the Spot here, where it's like starts off with him just being like, I'm just trying to survive.
Miguel,
trying to
yeah,
make this
Miguel
happen.
just has like the weight of the multiverse on his shoulders. Like, it's not that he like outright hates these people, but it's just like, I need you motherfuckers to conform or we won't exist. Like, everything's gonna fall apart. That's why he doesn't like Hobie and Miles. It's just like, you guys are rule breakers. And I even love the fucking nod to the MCU. It's just like, don't even get me fucking started on Doctor Strange and the nerd from Earth 19999.
I love that, the nerd from 1999. And then
Also-
Gwen,
also,
with a
I
name
love-
like Doctor Strange, I don't think he should be practicing medicine. I was like, yes.
I also love that, like, even though the MCU was just like, no, our universe is 616 across the
first
Spider-Verse,
off,
being like,
get
no, the
fucked
fuck it isn't.
for that. I think we talked about that during our review. Get fucked for calling yourself 616, because everyone knows Marvel movies are the alternate universe.
Yeah.
Comics are the are the universe. Let's be real.
It never bothered me too much because primarily, from my standpoint, the MCU is adaptation first.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
like a separate universe second. So them saying that their Earth was like 616 didn't really bother me too much. But I do love Across the Spider-Verse being so respectful to comics. It's just like, the fuck it is.
The fuck it is. I know, and it's even more like Sony being like, "Fuck off," you know, like it's just being like, "Respect the comics."
Especially since the characterization of like MCU Spidey is so different anyway. It's just like,
Yes.
616, bro.
Yes, exactly. I agree. I definitely agree. Now, I think basically this is a better sequel because it's bigger, louder. It improves on pretty
It's
much
bigger,
everything.
louder, and uncut.
Bigger, louder, and uncut. It is funnier. I will give it that. I laughed a lot at Into the Spider-Verse. I laughed so much during this movie. There's so many fucking things. And even knowing the joke from the trailer, like and then my Uncle Ben, what? He died. Like, I fucking lost it at that. Also, I was in a very packed theater, but I was like, of course, by myself. I was seeing like an early showing, and I was just laughing at certain things that nobody was laughing at because I've read so much Spider-Man stuff that like some of this stuff is so funny to me, and some people just don't fucking pick it up. Like, I hate to sound gatekeepy like that, guys. You don't have to read the comics to get the jokes in this. Like, it is very funny. It's just somehow enriched it for me. You know, like I was just like, I was laughing at things and when people were quiet, and I was like, I'm enjoying this a little more than a lot of other people. Like, I'm just like, oops. Like, I was like, I'm liking this a little bit more than they are. But and I felt like Phil Lord and Chris Miller got to bring out like that Clone High feel of humor more to this than they did into the Spider-Verse. I feel like there is a bunch of great like tearaway jokes like that, you know, that are super funny.
They're making Clone High again, so they definitely have the practice
Right.
now.
Right? I need to watch that. I
Just watched the latest episode last night. It's good. It's really good.
It's
I'm glad
good.
it's back.
That's great. That's so good to hear because it only got the one season. So you're like, please don't cancel it after another one season. I'll cry. Like it's kind of one of those things that it almost. I hate to say it, but it almost gives you hope for Firefly. I mean, don't say that because I don't need Joss Whedon to keep making money. But like, you're like, hey man, if we can get Clone High back, anything's possible, baby. Like,
I mean, so many things have come back that I never thought. Definitely wouldn't have bet money on it coming back. That who fucking knows.
Now, I don't think we've talked about one of my favorite parts of this movie yet. Is Jake Johnson as Parker B being back, but also Mayday being an actual character in this is super fucking funny to me. And like, and in several versions too. I thought that was the best part is we have Peter B. Parker's Mayday, his little kid, but you see Mayday characters in the background. You see Spider-Woman, you know, like who are definitely Maydays in the background of a bunch of scenes, and I'm just like, oh man, I fucking love this movie. You know, like it's just like they
But I
just
also
fucking
just like that nod
give you
to like
everything.
Spider-Girl because that was like That character definitely resonated. As brief, as like short-lived as that character was, that definitely resonated with people, and they felt like it was kind of the perfect ending for Peter to actually get a happy ending for once in his life. And then, of course, mainstream comics is just like, nah.
Now, so the twist at the end here of him getting sent to the alternate universe, him finally confessing, which I did love his speech, to him being Spider-Man to the wrong mom, and then being jumped by himself, the Prowler, I think is a really fun twist ending. But I think it gives us the biggest glimpse into what is going to be beyond the Spider-Verse. Because I think we've now confirmed there's other Miles, which I knew from, Into the Spider-Verse. But there's other Miles. That means there's other Miles Spider-Man. And I think that proves it. And I think that it's going to be this, like, kind of crazy fight in Beyond, where it's going to be, and this is just me theorizing, where it's going to be all these Miles beating the shit out of a bunch of Peters.
I mean, we already acknowledged the Insomniac universe, and
you're like, hey, they exist, man. Then like he's there, bruh. And we basically get Miles G. Morales here as the Prowler at the end. Which I love that. I love that little change.
Kilometers Immorales.
I was losing it at that meme, dude.
I had already seen that meme, like, making the rounds before the movie had come out, and then, like, people have, like, redrawn
and then for it to be
make
true,
it more
you're like,
funnier.
oh my
God.
God.
I mean, yeah, that's not the ending.
But I do think that gives us our hint to what the next movie is, because I think that would be real fun,
I'm also glad that they hinted at like Gwen putting together a team and like Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Hammer back in there.
Because I did miss them. If there's one thing I will say I did miss about this movie is all of them.
Penny was there to have like a line, but that was about it.
And Peter B had a bunch of scenes, but
although
we didn't get Noir or Spider-Ham.
I do appreciate that like, Penny's new mech suit looks a lot more like it did in the comic.
Yeah. Same. I'm like, thank you. You went to Spider, like not, like what it was before, like I'm cool.
It's just like a cute little emoji robot. Just like, no, it's a fucking mech suit now.
Yeah, it's a fucking mech suit. Let's be real about this. Now, I don't know. I need to see it again. Is basically what I say, and that's maybe one of. That maybe should be on our ranking system. Usually we rank movies as pre-order it, get it, released it, own it, buy it on sale, and a nope. Maybe we should have one for movies in theaters where we're like, go see it again. Go see it again. Go see it again. Don't see it. Don't even own it. See it. Witness it with your eyes in the theaters once more. And I think that's what I will give this, is that you might need to see this movie twice. In the way that I had to see Into the Spider-Verse a bunch of times, I feel like I need to see Across the Spider-Verse a bunch more times. I really enjoyed it. Sure, there's things I miss about the soundtrack of the first one, but that's really a minor thing. Mm-hmm. Really, this is a huge improvement on the original. Everything's bigger, badder, boominer, in a reference to Metro Boomin doing the whole soundtrack and also being a voice line in it. He like points at Peter. He's like, there he points at Miles.
It's bigger in all the ways that actually matter, as opposed to just increasing the scale for the hell of it to try and top yourself.
Yes, and adding a lot of stakes, and which is important in a Spider-Man story. I feel like a lot of what causes superhero fatigue is not having good enough stakes, and I think that's what Guardians did. Volume 3 did great, is we had Raccoon's life, Rocket's life on the line, and I feel like here,
like everyone, like think about it this way, like everyone really loves Volume 3 and they don't give Volume 2 enough respect. But from a scale perspective, Volume 3 is actually on a lower scale than 2. But what it makes up for in that is it's much higher stakes emotionally.
Yes, exactly. I am very excited to see what they got next. I don't know how they can top this, because I felt like topping Into the Spider-Verse was an untoppable task, and they absolutely did it. They fucking, that's why I can't comprehend it. I feel like that's why I can't comprehend it.
It was all made around the same time, and this is basically just the first half of one story. Like, I think we can top it.
And did you hear if they actually come out on the date they set, it will be the fastest turnaround for a Marvel sequel ever, which is, first off, fucking nuts. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I mean, if they're just continuously working on it, I guess, but you're just like, holy shit, you know, like that's such a crazy
They did also say that,
window.
like, at least as far as like Miller and Lord are concerned, that like that's the last one for them. They literally said, we're so tired.
Yeah, I agree, and I would be. I just want to see the ending. You know, like I'm so excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse. I think it's going to be great. I couldn't be more hyped. I love this. I feel so spoiled. Like I said at the beginning of this episode, I mean, I came out of Guardians being like, that was the best Marvel movie. You're like, this is the best Spider-Man movie. You know, like for me, I think that this is absolutely the best Spider-Man movie, and I think that that's crazy to say, but and maybe a diplomatic thing to say, but also it's very true.
Like, as much as I like No Way Home, when people were like drooling over that, I'm just like, it wasn't as good as Into the Spider-Verse.
Yes, right. Exactly. Like, it's one of those things that IGN put, like, voted by the fans, the rated Spider-Man rankings, and like. And I was dying because all the MCU Spider-Man were above Amazing Spider-Man, and Amazing Spider-Man was, like, super low. And I was like, you guys watched Amazing Spider-Man recently? It's better than almost all of the MCU Spider-Man? Like, you know, I love No Way Home, but, like, you know, like, Far From Home and Homecoming aren't as good as Amazing Spider-Man.
Look, put it this way:
like,
No Way Home without the nostalgia baiting for like the previous iterations of the characters falls apart. Into the Spider-Verse without like the cameos and without it as a multiverse story would still work.
Yes, exactly.
It would still just be a great Miles movie.
Exactly, and it's one of those things that, you know, that Simpsons meme where they slap the kid in the back, the kid slapping his kid in the back of the head, and he's like, "That's how you do, you know, that's how you do a multiverse movie," is what they said, and it's like slapping, but it would be like Doctor Strange and Spider-Man No Way Home. It's like, that's how you do a multiverse movie, because even Spider-Man No Way Home feels almost tame to this, you know, like, I feel
we had
like
said it when we talked
they have
about
opened
it. Like,
Pandora's box.
That's less Spider-Verse and more like Spider-Men.
Yes, I agree. I would say it's very much similar, which I own both behind me. And
the comic was
I think
huge when it came out because for some reason they had never crossed over 616 and Ultimate until that point. I'm surprised that took so long.
Yeah, right. You're like, wait, guys, what? You're like, no, you guys didn't do it? All right. You heard that they're gonna try to bring back Ultimate Comics now too. By the way, they announced this morning. Actually, they're like, we're gonna do Ultimate Comics again.
Good. Bring
like,
Miles back
what?
to the Ultimate Universe and not have him be in 616. I hate that so much.
Yeah, I'm for it. So, what do you think, Deshaun? Same here. Go see it again.
Yeah, go see it
Own
again. Like I've already pre-ordered the Steelbook. There are actually two different Steelbooks, one from Best Buy and one from Walmart.
Ooh.
I went with the Walmart one because that has a better cover.
I almost just want to wait to own it. I want to wait to like get all three together. You know, like I might have to do that,
wait for an inevitable like box set.
Yeah. Because I already own the first one in digital, so maybe I'll own the second one in digital too, so I can watch it anywhere, any place, and then I'll buy all three of them and once they're all together on Blu-ray. Because I mean, that was one of my first thoughts leaving the theater. I'm like, oh man, this fucking Blu-ray triple trilogy is gonna be fucking epic as shit. Like, I don't know why that was like my first thought, but of course that just shows how much we're into physical media. But I walked out of this movie theater being like, that was a great movie. I can't wait for that triple like
box set.
Trilogy box set. It's gonna be fucking awesome, you know. Like, and I think that's gonna be true. I'm so excited for Beyond. I can't believe they topped Into the Spider-Verse, Deshaun. I just can't believe it. It's one of those things that going into it, I saw the first couple reviews that people are putting out, and I was like, no, it can't be true. You know, like it just can't. You know, like
the possibilities are endless.
And it's true. And okay, I'll say it. If Flash and Blue Beetle also are good, this may be the best superhero year since like 2016, bro. Like this is
Blue Beetle looks fine. Like I feel like it's just going to be a very fine movie.
I hope it's good.
The Flash is an interesting one because the one that made me go like, look, I'll enjoy it because Michael Keaton's Batman in it. I want to see some Flash shit. Like cool. But the one that like really turned me was Danica XIX. Who is never shy about shitting on DC movies. Even she was just like, I really liked The Flash. We're like, okay.
It's funny because I've seen, you know, there's like Stephen King even said he liked it. There's a lot of like influencers and people being like they really liked it. And then I saw like Screen Rant's review and they hated it. They were like, it's mid. And it's one of those things where you're like, maybe they just didn't connect. I'm excited to find out. Is basically it. I'm going in not with the high expectations of those amazing reviews. I'm just gonna go in being like, let's go see Michael Keaton again. You know, like. Yeah. But if it is that, I hope. You know, like because I think we have a lot of great superhero movies coming up this year, and those two can really round it out. That would be fucking incredible. You know, you're like, please. Like, and I mean, if Transformers is any good, let's hope that's good. We'll still have some nerdy good shit. But I already heard bad things about Indiana Jones, so we're pretty fucked there. But, you know, whatever.
I was kind of indifferent from the prospect of a fifth Indiana Jones movie.
Right? You're like, Jesus Christ. July, though, we have July 21st, the biggest day in cinema in years. We have Barbie and Oppenheimer. We're all going. It's going to be, we're all going, so I don't know if you're going to go, but we're all going. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles also has a movie this year, and if that doesn't suck, that's going to be like, you know, like, holy shit.
From an animation standpoint, like, it looks really cool, but I'm not a TMNT guy.
Right? Me neither, so it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, I'll watch it if it's good.
I'm happy for all my other friends. It's in the same way that, like, when that fucking game came out and everyone was, like, losing their minds over it. It's like, yeah, good for you. I'm happy for you guys.
You're like, but I'm not gonna play. Yeah, and then we have Marvels later on, which I have very little faith in. That is the last of the superhero stuff for this year. But so I mean, I do have some faith that the trailers are funny, you know, like, but I don't have a ton of faith. It's one of those things where I'm like, give me Ant-Man Quantumania vibes, where I didn't exactly hate it, but I didn't exactly like it either. You know,
the
like
only
I'm
hope
just like,
is that, like, yes, it does immediately look more fun because, like, the entirety of the first Captain Marvel movie was just so fucking dour and so up its own ass.
Yeah, right. I will say, we were talking about superhero movies coming up, but horror movies coming up. We got some really bangers coming in October. We got, I mean, I don't know about Five Nights at Freddy's, but some people seem to like it. But we have Saw X. We have a prequel to The Omen called The First Omen, which I thought is really funny. I was like, what? And then Dune is right after that, which, you know, fuck yeah.
Yeah, Dune I'm looking forward to. You can kiss my ass with another Saw movie. And I'm coming from the person who, like, really likes the Saw franchise, but, like, after those original, like, 7 movies, kiss my ass. Jigsaw was fucking garbage. I didn't even watch Spiral.
I actually am excited for The Nun, too. The Nun was actually a super surprising good one. I actually kind of like that one, so hopefully
what about you gonna watch the new Insidious that, like, is the big tie between, like, Insidious and The Conjuring?
Yeah, I mean, yes, because I'm a bit, you know, I'm a Conjuring fan. I'm not an Insidious fan. Like, I like Insidious. It's fine. It's not really. It's the first one's okay. The second one, better. But, like, Conjuring is more my game. You know, like, I like that because it's, like, sort of true stories. You can trace it to, you know, as they made it up.
It has Insidious in the title, but it's really a big crossover movie.
Yes, which I'm totally for, because I want more Conjuring stuff. And then I'm excited for The Meg 2 that's coming out in August. I'm excited. I am the only guy excited about it, but I am excited about it. I'm like, oh man, you're gonna give me another giant shark movie? Oh hell yeah! Like,
But in addition to like just more Spider-Man goodness on top of like how good this fucking movie was,
yes,
the second Insomniac game is also due.
Right?
Which I don't know if you watched that gameplay showcase for it. Did you?
Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah,
like,
I did.
Oh my god, the symbiote suit shit is so cool.
I was like, oh, okay. Like, and they were saying that's not even like a fraction of what the symbiote suit does, and like all this other shit.
I love people being angry because I think they just announced today that like Eddie Brock's not in it. I'm like, no, I figured not. Like they were hinting at the end of the first game.
I saw a whole article. They were like, how do we all feel about Eddie Brock not being Venom? I'm like, Eddie Brock doesn't have to be Venom.
No, at the end of the first game, it was implied that Harry was supposed to become Venom. So I'm like, okay, we're going with Harry this time. We've done that before.
Right? Like,
that's what speaking of Spectacular Spider-Man, the cartoon, that cartoon also did that.
Exactly. And it's one of those things that people are so dumb that they don't understand, you know, who Venom is, the symbiote is, the black suit. They don't, they can't, they're all like, it's all Venom. You're like, no.
There have also been theories that like maybe, Harry being Venom is a misdirect and maybe it's just Peter. Because Miles is playable and it becomes like Miles versus
having
Peter
to fight
thing.
Peter off. Yeah, that could be cool. But no, there's definitely promotional art where it's Peter and Miles fighting Venom.
Yeah,
I saw it today.
But marketing can lie.
Yes, of course. Because I would say that's one of the things about this movie is that there was a ton of trailer stuff that was edited differently from the movie.
Yeah.
Like specifically edited differently in the trailer to show different things.
Also,
and then in the movie played out completely different. And I was
also,
like,
Phil Lord,
I was like, that was kind of cool. Like
Phil Lord, you promised Spider-Man. Where the fuck was he? He better be in the third one.
Yeah, right. He did say that. He said he's in this, and I was like, where was he? Like, like, did I miss him? Did I miss him? Yeah, he should be in the next one. I love this movie. I want to see it again right now. I watched Into the Spider-Verse this morning, and I was like, not big enough. Let's go bigger. And like, I was like, this is good. Let's go bigger. I'm like, let's go see it again. I might force some family members to go see it again this weekend. Even though there is good stuff at the theaters right now. Not too bad.
It's in the same way that like stuff like the first movie, or I know you haven't seen Arcane, but Arcane, where you watch something and you're like, people should watch this because it's going to spawn a million imitators.
Yes, exactly. I would say that's kind of the most important thing about this is that if Into the Spider-Verse changed a lot about animated movies, this is going to absolutely change animated movies. This is crazy. This is, and they're going to try to imitate this or go bigger than this in a lot of other movies, and you might need to watch this to find out why they're doing that, you know, like, or what they're trying to do or accomplish in that way. So I think it's important. Like, I think this is not only a great movie, but it feels like an important movie. I hope it gets nominated for at least Best Animated Movie. If it's not up for Best Picture, because they'll never allow that. They'll never. I saw somebody saying that, and I was like, I was like, you forgot about Belle. You forgot about Beauty and the Beast.
But that's the thing. After we got Best Animated Feature as a subcategory, probably because the Academy saw that Beauty and the Beast got nominated for Best Picture, and they were like, "Fuck that, never again. Get your cartoons out of here."
And that's exactly
we all
what
know
might
the Academy has
here.
never cared about animation, so don't be surprised if it doesn't get its due for the Oscars specifically.
I was laughing about that comment because of that. So I do think that it should be up for Best Animated, and I think it should win. I don't know what else could beat this. You know, looking at what the rest of this year, animated wise, I don't know what the fuck
What, you
could
don't
beat
think
this.
Elemental's going to be the one?
Oh God, dude! I've seen so many trailers for that, and I'm like, you can't make me care. This looks like it should be on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Like, Pixar, I love you, but like, this feels like the driest idea.
It's
Put
literally
this on Disney
the
Plus.
opposite of like what the stuff that ends up on Disney Plus and the stuff up on like theaters should be switched.
yeah, sometimes you're like, what the fuck is going on? You know, like you're like this elemental is not gonna draw people out to audiences, like unless it's amazing. You know, like that's the thing, is it's got to be incredible for people to be coming out to see this weird, slightly sexual elements movie. It's a romance movie. They're trying to do like a romance, but like,
They're
which is
basically
kind of
like,
weird.
They're basically
you know,
just
like,
doing like an interracial couple movie, but they're afraid to actually do an interracial couple movie. It's
Yeah.
like, well, it's different. He's a water guy. She's a fire girl. Oh, the shenanigans.
I know, and I'm already like sick of those movies.
It's just
on
one of those
Netflix.
things where, like,
Netflix
just like Cars,
just pumps those movies.
It feels like what a parody of one of these movies would be.
Exactly. You're like, wait a minute.
Just
exactly.
like, oh, this is a real
it
movie.
feels like an
this
Adult
seems
Swim.
like a skit.
Yeah, it feels like an Adult Swim thing where they're like, Pixar does Elemental, you know, like, and you're just like, that's what it feels like. Sorry, we've talked about so many other movies right now. We're so off track. Go see Across the Spider-Verse. It's important. It's great. I've been listening to the soundtrack pretty much nonstop. My favorites: Mona Lisa, Another Dimension, Annihilation. They're great. Go listen to the soundtrack. I might have another thing that I'm excited about owning is the 3 set of all the vinyls. I want all the vinyls together. I want all 3 movies as vinyls, and that'll be great. Now. And I'll probably be at Newbury Comics for like a fucking $100, and I'll be like, oh my god, maybe not.
I mean, when you're getting 3 separate ones, especially like
Right,
a limited
can't be
edition, it's
angry.
going to be the same thing with a box set. A box set's going to be expensive too.
Right? Everyone's always like, why is TV box sets so expensive? I'm like, you're getting so much more content. Think about it. You know, 2-hour movie, 12-hour show. You know, like you're like, I'm sorry, it's a lot more expensive. But guys, thank you for listening to this episode. It's a little extra long because we're a little extra passionate about this thing this week. And I feel like there's so much more I could talk about. That's why I need to go see it again.
And if you're unfamiliar with some of like the source materials, I would again recommend reading Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yes.
On the animation
Read
side, besides
Spider-Verse.
this, I would. There are two standouts for like Spider-Man cartoons. One's the 90s cartoon, which is good but doesn't really hold up in my opinion. And Spectacular Spider-Man, which is great but a little short-lived because it was canceled due to the Disney merger, which goddamn it.
Now, if you're looking for what this specific stories are based on, you need to read Spider-Verse, or there's all these Edge of the Spider-Verse stories, which a lot of these Spider-Man are explored in. Great little short stories, but like literal pinnacle of comics sometimes, you know, like, because it's just like these little short, great Peter Parker stories, and or, you know, varieties, and it's just awesome. Totally worth reading. The Spider-Verse story's worth reading. The sequel, what was the sequel called? They did another Spider-Verse one, but it was like the end of Spider-Verse or something. I forget, but that's also worth reading. Spider-Man, we said earlier, is worth reading. So if you're looking for, you're like, hey, I really love this, I want more like it, there's a ton more that this is all really based off of, really. But I think as much as I was shitting on that person being like, oh man, the books aren't as doing as much justice to Miles, I do think Miles has great stories other than this, but I think Spider-Verse wise, this is the best Spider-Verse story. This is better. I said it earlier. No spider slayers, you know, like just kind of doing it. No spider totems, because that was the other weird thing going on. There's a spider
where, like,
totem,
every one of
and
the
there's
Spider-Men were like totems that like exist.
Yeah.
They like the closest that they got was like the fact that they established that the Spider-Verse is a thing and it looks like a giant like web of interconnected destinies and stuff like that. He's like, good, that's as far as we need to go.
Yeah, let's stop there. But if you're looking for stuff like that, that stuff is fun to read. It really is.
I was just
and
thinking
I do
about
recommend
recommending
the Edge of
like
Spider-Verse.
accessible stuff. And there's also the Insomniac games, which also has its own Miles, and it also finds a better reason to justify a Miles and a Peter in the city at the same time than the actual comics do.
Yeah. And of course, everyone's all seen the original, all the Spider-Man movies probably leading up to this, because I think you have to at this point, which is crazy. I feel like there's so much Spider-Man you have to watch to get up to this point, but it's kind of fun, in a way. And if you don't feel bad, if you like Spider-Man at all, I feel like that's what this movie's about.
Yeah, you have several outlets.
Yeah, exactly. You don't. It's like, it's one of those things that a lot of people gatekeep because you don't know all the information. I think if you like Spider-Man, you're gonna like this. Like there's no, and you're a fan of Spider-Man. If you like Spider-man, if you thought, if you ever
jump into an issue because it looks cool. If you need to do a little homework, then so be it. You might just see a character you don't recognize. It takes 2 seconds to be like, okay, what's this character from? Oh, okay, all right, exactly. Moving on, and just keep on reading.
Learn more. I think that's the fun here for even like shutting off my adult brain, kid eyes, watching this Spider-Verse movie. There is so much on screen you'll see that you'll be able to look up later and learn about a new Spider-Man or a new take, a new thing. That's what's so great about this. As like, I feel like as a young viewer would be being like, oh my God, there's so much here, like in the same way that I saw my Spider-Man encyclopedia and I was like, wow, there's, 70 years of Spider-Man here to learn, and I did, is that I feel like that's what this movie can do for kids, is being like, wow, there's so much Spider-Man to learn and know. And that's the fun of it, is that it's not scary or gatekeepy to know all these things. It's fun. You can be like, wow, cool, I have all of Ultimate Spider-Man to read. I have all of all these great Spider-Man stories to read. There's so much, and there's so many great things, and this just celebrates it. I always say in all the episodes, my wife has kind of made it a meme about the podcast. I'm like, yes, this is a love letter to Spider-Man, and I say it about everything. I'm like, this is a love letter to Batman. This is a love letter. I say it about everything, and I'm really sorry, guys. It is sort of a
Guardians
meme.
of the Galaxy Volume 3 really
a love letter to
raccoons. It's a love letter to not do animal
testing.
Does
any movie fit that description more than this, though? Like, it really does love Spider-Man. It loves comics, and it feels like a Spider-Man, a brand new Spider-Man comic happening in front of your eyes, and I really love that about it. I feel like I think comic book fans couldn't be more happier watching this. I think that even if you're not a big Spider-Man fan and you're a comic book fan, you'll be like, holy shit, that was so cool to witness, so go check it out. Guys, I hope you like those recommendations. I hope you like this episode. If you do, you can watch our beautiful faces on YouTube, on Galaxy of Geek YouTube page. Hold on, there's the sticker. We also have the website galaxygeek.com, where we post all the episodes in audio and video form. Yes, audio form. You can listen to us on any podcast platform. I dare you to find something we're not on. Like, seriously, if you type in the Warp Shelf into something and we don't come up, tell me. I'll fucking get it up on there. And please, guys, comment down below. I wanted to address a comment from last episode. We had a comment that was saying that they weren't in love with Sean Gunn's style. James Gunn's style. Sorry, going into all the Guardians movies, but really loved Guardians 3. And I feel you there. Maybe you didn't love Slither, I feel, or the Scooby-Doo movies, I get it. But I as fans of it, it's cool to see his style evolve. Is what my response.
Yeah, and we even talked about last episode how the further along we've gotten in his career, how much he's demonstrated his range.
Yes, exactly. I think range-wise, God, I mean, sorry to bring it back, but Chris Miller and Phil Lord, Jesus Christ, those guys got
I think they're next, and the funny thing is they didn't even direct any of these. They're writers on them, but they're not the directors. But you can feel their influence on them so heavily. I think the next thing that they're actually up to direct themselves is an adaptation of Project Hail Mary. That's a book from the same author as The Martian. Great fucking book.
There's
I cannot wait for it to be
three
adapted.
directors on this. I didn't realize that. There's Joaquin Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson. So 3 directors on this movie. That's kind of wild. Even for for DGA. That's kind of fucking crazy, you know?
Not
Like
too crazy for an animated movie, though.
Jacome, I'm saying it wrong, but I think it's Joaquim Dos Santos, director of Voltron Legendary Defender, which, by the way, if you're a Voltron fan and you haven't seen that anime on Netflix, you've been missing out. It's a good Voltron anime.
I heard you've been missing out at first, but I hear it went bad.
Yeah. Oh, did it?
I heard it went way downhill.
Because at first it was so banging. You were like, damn. I didn't finish it though. And then Legend of Korra, he also directed, and the Batman Shazam movie, Superman Shazam movie, which was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I remember that. Return of Black Adam.
Kemp Powers, wow. Director of Soul. Okay. You're like, oh, okay.
All right.
One of the most artistic of the Pixar movies. One of the most, and then you have, oh my goodness, though. You have the, Justin K. Thompson, who's the other director, who, are they saying that he hasn't directed anything else? He hasn't directed anything else, but was the animation department on SpongeBob, like Kim Possible, so many movies.
So basically, just kind of he worked his way up the ladder.
Like, Jesus Christ, yeah, production designer on Sackboy and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So he was a production designer and then moved up to director. That's wild.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Hey, when you pay your dues,
yeah, right.
Work your way up,
because he did do production design on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 1 and 2, which are
that's
fantastic.
Another Lord and Miller thing. So there you go.
I love those movies. Those movies are great. So yeah, right. Like anyway. So it is like a.
we should have covered the directors at the start.
Whoopsies. But besides the point, guys, thank you for listening to this episode. Yeah, some people have already clicked off and we're sitting here being like, oh shit. But thank you for listening to this episode. Make sure to check out our personal social medias. I'm Yup Frank or Yup Gundam on Instagram and other places. And Deshaun?
And I'm Mod Karika pretty much everywhere.
And guys, thank you for listening to this episode and for supporting the show. And thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week.
We'll see you next time.